feels like everybody in their extended family wants to jump on Retatrutide these days. And I get messages about it constantly. When is it coming out? Should I switch? Is it really the final boss of weight loss? Meanwhile, most of them have no idea if it's even the right GLP-1 for their body, or if switching is about to make things worse. You see, the dark side of GLP-1s is that they can absolutely leave you worse off than before you started if you don't approach things correctly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch things up today. Before we go any further, I wanna give you 3 huge Reddit myths just right out the gate. All right, so let's go. Myth number 1. Retatrutide lost 24% body weight. Tirzepatide only lost 20. So Retatrutide is better. Wrong. Those trials weren't even the same length. Retatrutide's number came from 48 weeks. Tirzepatide's came at 72 weeks. You're comparing a sprint to a marathon and declaring the sprint faster. Okay, myth number 2, the glucagon receptor spares muscle. That's why Retatrutide is better for body composition. The DEXA scan data says otherwise. All 3 major GLP-1s, semaglutide, tirzepatide, and Retatrutide, produce similar fat to lean loss ratios in the studies that we have so far. No drug spares your muscle on its own. Resistance training and protein are what protect it. And then myth number 3, more receptors equals more results. More receptors equals more complexity, more side effects, and more ways to fail without expert guidance. And that third receptor, the glucagon receptor, creates trade-offs that most people aren't prepared to manage. I'm Dr. Jones, DC, and I've lost over 100 pounds myself, and I've coached thousands of patients through these medications. And now I work with our medical team, and I've watched people chase the most powerful drug right into a freaking wall. So today I want to show you exactly what that wall looks like, and more importantly, how you can avoid it. In the next couple minutes, I'm going to show you the clinical trade-off data that the hype machine just entirely skips. The discontinuation rates, the side effects hitting 1 in 5 people at effective doses, at least clinically effective doses, and we're going to talk about that as well, and why that third receptor might be working against you. Plus, I'll tell you exactly who should consider Retatrutide, in our opinion, versus who needs to stay far away. So let's dig into the first myth a little bit deeper, because this is where the internet gets it completely wrong. So when you see somebody post Retatrutide beat Tirzepatide by 4% points, they're comparing 2 totally different studies. The Retatrutide phase 2 trial data ran for 48 weeks, but the Tirzepatide SURMOUNT trial ran for 72 weeks. Okay, that's not a small difference. That's 6 extra months of data. And here's the part that really matters. That 24% weight loss number that everybody throws around, that came from the highest dose, 12 milligrams. You know what else happens at 12 milligram Retatrutide doses? 0.2% of people dropped out because of the side effects. Almost 1 in 5 couldn't finish the trial. And that's not in the headlines. Nobody's talking about that. That's just sort of buried in the data. Now compare that to Tirzepatide's phase 3 trials, SURMOUNT-1 and SURMOUNT-2. Longer duration, longer patient population, and frankly, a more predictable side effect profile. The weight loss percentages were lower, yes, but more people actually finished the trial. More people could tolerate the medication long term. And this is phase 2 trial versus phase 3. Now, I know there's some early phase Retatrutide data that has been released, and it definitely tells an expanding story, more certainty, but still a lot of unknowns. The reality is phase 3 Retatrutide trial is not done yet. Phase 2 trials typically involve more selected patient and tighter monitoring, conditions that don't always translate to the real world. So when someone tells you Retatrutide won by 4% points, ask them, won at what costs and over what time frame? Because once you account for the different durations and the dropout rates, I personally think that the gap between these drugs starts to shrink dramatically. And that's before we even talk about what it actually feels like to be on them. Which brings us to that third receptor, the one that makes Retatrutide a triple agonist. It's not just doing more of the same thing, it's doing something completely different. And look, if you're watching this and you're already on GLP-1s trying to figure out whether to stay, switch, or adjust your dose, that's exactly what we help people with. You guys can text the number on the screen or check out the link in the description if you want to book a free discovery call. One of our patient educators will talk through your specific situation, what you've tried, where you're stuck, and whether working with our team long-term makes sense for you. What does the third receptor actually do? Because this is where the hype train goes off the rails. Tirzepatide hits 2 receptors, GLP-1, GIP, which suppresses your appetite, slows down stomach emptying, has a lot of other cool health benefits too as well that are currently being studied. GLP-1 and GIP improve insulin response. That's why people feel like their food noise finally goes quiet on Tirzepatide. Retatrutide does all that, plus adds a third receptor, glucagon, which does something completely different. Glucagon is a counter-regulatory hormone to insulin. It's basically insulin's counterbalance. So when insulin tells your body store energy, glucagon tells your body to release it. And that's when you activate the glucagon receptor. You're signaling your liver to release stored glucose. You're mobilizing fat out of fat cells. You're potentially ramping up thermogenesis, how many calories you burn at rest. This is why some patients report feeling warmer on Retatrutide. sweating more, noticing that their heart rate increases. On paper, this might sound incredible. You're not just suppressing your appetite, you're actively mobilizing fat. That's the promise. But like anything, that glucagon receptor isn't adding to your appetite suppression. It's doing something else entirely. A lot of people switch to Retatrutide expecting even better control over food noise, and they're disappointed because the glucagon receptor doesn't silence food chatter, it mobilizes fat. This might actually be the reason why appetite suppression is known to be less on Retatrutide, because speeding things up might actually make you more hungry. I mean, we don't really know what we're seeing, but what we're seeing is straight up, Tirzepatide is still the king when it comes to pure appetite suppression. I don't care how much glucagon fat mobilization you're getting. If you're not able to control your eating and get to a calorie deficit with better quality food, you're gonna struggle. And Retatrutide's additional metabolic benefits will never override you not being able to get into and maintain some sort of continual calorie deficit. I hear this constantly in coaching calls. I thought Retatrutide would make me forget food even existed, but I'm still thinking about food. And that's because most of the proven appetite suppression comes from GLP-1 and GIP, and Tirzepatide delivers that at full strength. The glucagon receptor is doing metabolic work, not as much mental work. And here's where it gets tricky. That metabolic acceleration isn't free. You're not just mobilizing fat, you're accelerating your entire calorie deficit. So if you're already under eating, which most people on GLP-1s are, the glucagon receptor is pouring gasoline on that fire. Your body is burning through fuel faster. Your heart is working harder. And if you're not eating enough, you're heading for a crash. This is what I call the glucagon effect. More power, but more complexity. More fat mobilization, but more can go wrong. And it shows up in the data, which is exactly what we're gonna look at next, because that third receptor comes with a tax. And at effective doses, a lot of people can't pay that tax, and you all know what happens when you don't pay your taxes. Okay, so if that just clicked for you, if you've been wondering why people say Reta is more powerful, but it suddenly makes sense that more power doesn't mean necessarily better results for everybody, you need to hit that subscribe button right now, because we put out 2 GLP-1 videos every single week and at least 1 Retatrutide video every single week, breaking down exactly this kind of stuff. The real clinical data, the patterns that we're seeing, and how to actually optimize your protocol instead of just chasing the newest drug. All right, let's talk about what the metabolic acceleration actually costs, because it starts with your heart. You see, the glucagon receptor doesn't just mobilize fat, it revs up your entire system. And one of the most consistent effects that we see is heart rate elevation. In the Retatrutide trials, heart rate increased in a dose-dependent way, meaning the higher the dose, the faster the potential increase on the heart rate was. And it plateaued around the midpoint of the trial, roughly 6 months in. We're talking 5 to 10 beats per minute higher than baseline. And for some people, even more. Now you might be thinking a few extra beats per minute doesn't sound too bad. Honestly, for a healthy person with no underlying issues, that might be the case. But here's the problem. A lot of people starting these medications don't even know what their cardiac baseline is. They haven't had a screening underlying heart issues that are about to get exposed. And this isn't like the heart rate increase that you get from exercise. That's temporary. You work out, it goes up, and then you recover and it comes back down to baseline. This is a sustained resting heart rate elevation. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week while you're on the medication. Your heart is working harder around the clock. And if you have undiagnosed cardiac issues, a particular type of cardiac issues, not cardiovascular disease, Retatrutide is gonna help with that, like all GLP-1s. We're talking heart arrhythmias or elevated heart rate issues. That's the big concern. This is why a cardiac screening before Retatrutide isn't optional. It's essential. I don't care how excited you are to try it, get the screening first. And here's the thing that most doctors won't tell you, because most doctors prescribing this haven't seen the pattern yet. They don't know to warn you because they don't have enough patients on it seeing what we're seeing in our clinic. Okay, the thermogenic effect, the sweating, the feeling warmer. Patients describe these as signs that the glucagon receptor is doing its job. And most people treat them like a bonus feature, but they're signals that your system is running hotter, and you need to be monitoring that. Okay, so let's talk about the actual numbers here, because this is the part that the hype machine skips over. At those 12 milligram doses that we mentioned in the trials, the dose that produced the 24% weight loss that everybody talks about, 18.2% of the participants, they discontinued due to adverse events. That's 1 in 5 people who couldn't finish the trial because the side effects were too intense. Let's get more specific. Dysesthesia, weird tingling, numbness, pins and needle sensation occurred in 21% of patients at that dose. 1 in 5 people experienced this weird, not fully understood neurological side effect. This isn't nausea. This isn't the GI stuff that you hear about with every other GLP-1 medication. This is a different category of side effect entirely. Now, GI events were at least as bad as Tirzepatide, possibly worse at the higher doses, the nausea, the vomiting, the diarrhea, all the usual suspects. But here's the difference. On Tirzepatide, most people can push through the GI stuff. It's subtle settled down. You find your dose, but with Retatrutide, you've got the GI stuff plus the heart rate elevation plus the neurological symptoms plus the accelerated calorie deficit. It might not seem like a lot, but it stacks, and this is what I call the Reta trade-off. More power, but more that can go wrong. More receptors, but more systems that can misfire. And you need someone who understands this trade-off, guiding you through it all, because most doctors prescribing this don't have enough experience with it yet to know what to watch for. Now, I want to be fair here. These are phase 2 trial numbers, and phase 2 trials tend to have more intensive monitoring, more support, more hand-holding than the real world. If 18% of people dropped out in a controlled trial environment, what do you think happens in the real world where people are managing this on their own? Those numbers don't go down, in my opinion. And when you see somebody online bragging about their Retatrutide results, ask yourself this: are they in that 80% who tolerated it? Or are you going to be in the 20% who couldn't? And here's the part that might make you really step back, because all of this complexity would be worth it if Retatrutide actually gave you something that Tirzepatide can't. But when it comes to body composition, really doesn't. Now, if you want me to make a video breaking down exactly how we optimize Tirzepatide doses in our clinic, the signs that you have room left before maxing out, when to hold versus escalate, and the lowest effective dose strategy, let me know in the comments what specific part would help you the most, and it'll come up in our upcoming videos. Okay, so this is the part that really changed how I think about this whole debate. One of the biggest arguments for Retatrutide is that glucagon receptor helps preserve muscle. You'll see this everywhere online. Reta spares muscle. That's why it's better for body composition. But the DEXA scan data, which is the optimal gold standard of testing your body to see how much fat and muscle that you actually have, tells us a different story. When you look at the DEXA sub-studies across all 3 major GLP-1s, semaglutide, Tirzepatide, Retatrutide, the ratio holds roughly across these drugs. Though exact numbers are gonna vary study by study. About 75% of the weight that's lost is fat and about 25% is lean mass. No drug spares your muscle all on its own. Let me tell you about a patient named Jessica. She's 43, mother of 2. She came to us after 8 months on a high dose of Tirzepatide at another clinic. See, she lost 35 pounds, which sounds great, right? Except when we ran the DEXA scan, not internally, we had her go run it, 15 of those pounds were muscle. That's 43% of her total weight loss, almost half was pure muscle, not fat. Her previous clinic never checked. They never optimized the protocol for her. They just saw the scale going down and called it a win. But Jessica was becoming what a lot of you know is the dreaded skinny fat syndrome. Lighter on the scale, but weaker with a slower metabolism. She crashed her metabolic rate by about 750 calories a day. That's not weight loss success. That's setting yourself up for massive, rapid weight regain afterwards. Here's the thing, Jessica wasn't on Retatrutide. She was on Tirzepatide, and switching her to a more powerful drug wouldn't have fixed this problem because the drug wasn't the problem. The problem was she wasn't doing proper resistance training, or much at all, to be frank, and she wasn't consuming enough protein. So we put her on a real protocol, resistance training 3 to 4 times a week, around 130 to 150 grams of protein every single day. Strategic calorie targets. Within 6 months, she gained back 8 pounds of muscle while losing another 10 pounds of fat. Same medication, basically she weighed the same on the scale, but completely different change to her body. This is why the whole, which GLP-1 is best for body composition debate misses the point. The drug doesn't determine your body composition, your protocol does. So here's the real question. If you're thinking about switching to Retatrutide because you're worried about muscle loss, are you actually doing the things that are going to protect your muscle? Because if you're not, a different drug isn't really gonna save you. Now, let me know in the comments how long you've been on your current GLP-1, what's your dose, and when did your progress start to stall if it has, and I'll hop in and respond and share what we've seen and what we would look at in our clinic first. Because maxed out is almost never the best answer. So let me ask you a question too. Out of everything that I've just covered, the trial differences, the glucagon effect, the side effect data, body composition, reality, which part actually applies to your situation? That's what matters here. After coaching thousands of patients through this exact decision framework, I can tell you that there are 4 types of people who should stay far away from Retatrutide right now, and I'm gonna get into it. Okay, number 1, if you're new to your journey right now, Retatrutide doesn't automatically become the thing to start with. Let me be straight, you can start with Retatrutide, but understand that the glucagon receptor, it adds complexity. And if your metabolic foundation isn't solid, you're adding chaos to chaos. Stabilize with Tirzepatide first if you want to make things smoother for you, get the metabolic house in order, and then we can talk about adding the 3rd receptor. That's just a more conservative approach. Number 2, food noise is your primary struggle. If the main thing holding you back right now is constant food thoughts, cravings, that mental chatter that never shuts up, Tirzepatide is more predictable for handling that. Retatrutide doesn't appear to silence food noise the same way. Remember, the glucagon receptor mobilizes fat, but it doesn't seem to be working on the brain the way the GLP-1 and GIP does, which you get in Tirzepatide, and at a larger impact. If appetite control is your main battle, stick with what works for appetite control. And number 3, you haven't had cardiac screenings. This is non-negotiable, by the way. I don't care how excited you are. I don't care how impatient you are. Get the screening first, know your baseline. And number 4, you might have room left on your current dose. I see this every single week in coaching calls. Someone tells me they're maxed out on Tirzepatide and asks when they can switch to Reta. And almost every time, when we dig in, they're under eating, they're skipping resistance training, or they're on a higher dose that they actually need. This is what I call the dose escalation trap. You think you're maxed out, so you chase a stronger drug, but you haven't actually optimized what you're already on. The goal isn't more powerful medication. The goal is the lowest effective dose that lets you build real habits. And most people have more room than they think. Now, there is a specific type of person who Retatrutide actually makes sense for. You might even be one of them watching this video. It's a more narrow window than the internet makes it seem. Okay, so real quick, what's that profile look like? First, your metabolism is already stable. You're likely done the work on Tirzepatide or another GLP-1. Your insulin resistance is starting to make progress. Your inflammation markers are starting to improve. You're not starting from chaos. Number 2, food noise is not your primary struggle. You have good food discipline and you make good, smart choices without white knuckling it. Your main issue is metabolic. Maybe you have fatty liver disease. You want better results. You've actually put in the time and you want to optimize. Now we can talk about something like Retatrutide to get you better results. And third, you've had a cardiac screening or you've been cleared, you know your baseline, you're working with someone who's going to monitor you as you titrate up. And fourth, you're working with someone who actually understands the trade-offs. Not a doctor who's going to hand you a prescription and say good luck, but someone who knows what the Reta trade-off looks like in practice and can guide you through it. If all 4 of those things are true, then yes, Retatrutide might be worth considering. But notice how specific that list is. It's not anyone who wants faster results. It's not anyone who's plateaued. It's a narrow clinical profile. The question isn't, is Retatrutide better? The question is Retatrutide right for my situation? And I think for most people watching this, the honest answer is probably not yet. And by the way, the idea of stacking Retatrutide and Tirzepatide is something that our clinic does, which I think gives you an opportunity to get the best of both worlds. Before I tell you what to do next, be honest with yourself for a second. Based on everything that I just walked you through, which category do you actually fall into? And if you're seriously considering Retatrutide, comment your specific situation, your current medication, how long you've been on it, any cardiac history, and I'll tell you whether you'd even be a candidate based on what we probably screened for. One more thing before we wrap up. I know some of you watching this aren't waiting for FDA approval. You're already sourcing Retatrutide or you're thinking about it. I'm not here to give you a lecture, but I do want you to be smart about it. If you're going to a non-503A route, if you're sourcing from a research peptide company, send your product to go get tested. Verify what you're actually taking. The Retatrutide in clinical trials was manufactured to pharmaceutical standards, verified purity, known concentrations. What you're getting from other sources might not be exactly what it says on the label, or worse, it might not be at all. There are independent labs that will test peptides for you. Costs a little extra, but it's worth knowing what's actually in the vial before you inject it. Because if you're going to take the Reta trade-off, all the complexity, all the monitoring, all the potential side effects, at least make sure what you're working with is the real thing. Okay, so here's the bottom line. If you're sitting here trying to figure out whether Retatrutide is right for you, whether you should switch, wait, or optimize what you're already on, that's not something that you should be guessing at. And if you're stuck on a plateau and you're not sure if you're actually maxed out yet, or if there's room for a smarter dose here, or if you're worried about muscle loss and you don't know if your protocol is even protecting you, or maybe you're dealing with some side effects and you don't know whether to push through it or pull back, or if you just want someone who actually understands the Reta trade-off to look at your situation, that's exactly the kind of thing that we offer. You guys can text number on the screen or check out the link in the description to book a free discovery call. You'll get a chance to speak with one of our patient educators who will get on the phone with you, go through your history, what you've tried, where you're stuck, and what your long-term goals actually are. From there, they're gonna walk through what it looks like to work with me, our coaches, our medical team. They're gonna go over the programs, the pricing, and all of that. No pressure, no games, just a real conversation about whether it's the right fit or not. And if you are curious about what stacking with Retatrutide looks like, then you need to watch that video next, because that's all I talk about there is the best peptides to potentially stack with your Retatrutide. We'll see you guys later.